Ledbetter, you got a chance to be in the stands as the 49ers took on the Arizona Cardinals. Did you have any idea you were watching history as that game unfolded?
I mean, I knew that Christian McCaffrey was on the verge of breaking the 49er franchise record for most consecutive games with a touchdown, but unless there's something else historic that I don't know about, I was not prepared for anything else.
Well, Brock Purdy did set the single game franchise mark for completion percentage, beating Steve Young's 18 for 20 performance. One incompletion. Did you realize that as game flow went on that, oh yeah, Brock Purdy's like only missed one pass?
I actually did, because during I think it was the third touchdown drive for the 49ers was when we went to go get food. And so while we're waiting in line, the TVs have the broadcast and Greg Papa's radio call is playing. And on the TV, I see Brock Purdy 10 for 10, 150 yards. He had no touchdowns at the time. But I was just like, okay, so they literally have zero negative plays. Like the Cardinals have not stopped the 49ers on any play. The Niners have scored 3 touchdowns on 3 drives. The Cardinals just simply have not stopped San Francisco from doing anything. And then I remember when he got sacked and then threw the incompletion in the start of the second half, that's when I was like, oh, I think one of us jinxed it, because we were like, Brock Purdy has a perfect completion percentage, so they have no negative plays. And then the next 2 plays were sack by Gardeck and then incompletion. And it was the only incompletion of the entire game. Brock Purdy just torched a Cardinals defense that has been completely incapable of doing anything from own 25-yard line to opponent's 15. Just open season on the Cardinals defense.
One thing that was evident to me watching that game is the Niners said, we're not going to mess around. We're not going to play that Cowboy shit that the Cowboys did in week 3, where they let Arizona get the early lead and just run the clock out with James Conner. The Niners said, no, we're going to establish a lead quickly. And from there, we're going to put our foot on the throat of Arizona. And that foot was named Christian McCaffrey, because in this game, as you mentioned, he had a historic day too. 4 touchdowns, could have been 5. They stole the 5th one from him, admittedly. Brock Purdy's quarterback sneak. As much as I love seeing Brock get a touchdown in there, it would have been nice to see Christian get that 5, because I was running the numbers today, and LaDainian Tomlinson, 31 touchdowns. I think it was the 2007 season. That's, of course, a historic mark. On pace numbers, Christian McCaffrey could have 30 this season. Right now, he has 6 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown through the 4 games. Hopefully we don't look back at that missing touchdown from this game and think, dang, that could have been the record. That could have tied it. What do you think of Christian McCaffrey through this point of the season?
I think we mentioned this a little bit ago. Like, how recently before Christian McCaffrey got there were we saying, well, this 49ers offense is just completely interchangeable with the running back position, right? Like, we don't need any star running back. We can just fart out Jeff Wilson Jr.'s and Tevin Coleman twice and Jerick McKinnon's and Matt Breida's. And, now all of a sudden the entire construct of the 49ers offense is built around Christian McCaffrey. Everything they do is to facilitate Christian McCaffrey in that offense. And McCaffrey's on pace for, I know MVPs and running backs is an iffy game, but McCaffrey's on pace to win in September. He ended up with 4 touchdowns in his first game in October. You mentioned the 31 rushing touchdowns, and if that's a possibility for McCaffrey, I mean, this is what we were hoping for, right? When McCaffrey got traded, we were like, or at least I was saying, the Panthers wasted this man's career. Like, other than a playoff game his rookie year against the Saints where they lost by 20 points, like, McCaffrey never played a meaningful football game in his entire time with Carolina. And now that he's in San Francisco, we are getting to see the fruits of his labor. We're getting to see what Christian McCaffrey with talented players around him looks like. And not only has he scored a touchdown in 13 consecutive games, the 49ers, I believe, are now 15-1 in regular season games that Christian McCaffrey has played.
Yes, depending on whether or not you count the Chiefs game. That was kind of a weird game. If you take that Chiefs game completely out of it, where he was kind of on the field, off the field, came in that Wednesday or whatnot and played that game, then you could say technically they're undefeated in games Christian McCaffrey has played in the regular season. Of course, I also want to take out that Brock Purdy injured on the second snap game. So looking at the MVP betting odds right now, Christian McCaffrey is ninth overall. The players ahead of him, you have Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, his own quarterback, Brock Purdy, and Trevor Lawrence. Based off performances this past week, obviously Josh Allen, he's still playing at MVP pace. Tua took a big step back with what the Dolphins did against the Bills. Obviously, you got to win some of those games against tough division opponents to stand a chance. Patrick Mahomes is kind of just grandfathered into the MVP conversation at this point. Jalen Hurts the same as the MVP runner-up. Lamar's having a really good bounce back year. Justin Herbert has to elevate the Chargers, so you can make a compelling case for him based on having to outplay Brandon Staley. Brock Purdy, that's a tricky one for Christian McCaffrey, right? Because if Brock Purdy, if the Niners do what we project them to do the rest of the season, Christian McCaffrey looks great. Well, Brock Purdy's also going to look pretty great as a result of Christian McCaffrey's greatness. So you kind of like wonder who's going to pull away from each other. And Trevor Lawrence, there's something going on in Jacksonville, so I'm going to dismiss him in front of Christian McCaffrey as well. I think there's maybe like 3 players on this list I think Christian McCaffrey could jump over theoretically. If he, again, as you mentioned, continues to win Offensive Player of the month after month, it's going to be hard. And when I think about running backs winning the MVP, obviously the last one we saw get to do it was Adrian Peterson with the 2,000 yards rushing. So you have to do something record setting. You have to do something unfounded. And Christian McCaffrey, we already know that he's only the 4th ever 1,000 player in NFL history. So he's already accomplished that. He could run for 2,000 yards this season, potentially. That would be a first of his career also, although his receiving numbers tend to eat into his rushing numbers. I still think, I think it's the LaDainian Tomlinson touchdown mark. If he's going to do anything to win the MVP award, I think it might be that. And obviously he's on this 13-game run of having a touchdown. If he was to break LaDainian Tomlinson's LT's record, then I think that Christian McCaffrey is a lock for MVP.
Yeah, and the other thing that's factoring into it is that the 49ers are undefeated, and the 49ers have been one of the best teams in football, but they aren't the best team in football right now. I mean, it's between them and Buffalo and potentially Kansas City. Obviously, Buffalo beat the brakes off the Dolphins,
but did lose to the Jets.
This is also true. And that's why I think it's going to take like a 16-1 or a 17-0 season for the 49ers to get that recognition. Christian McCaffrey is the soul of that offense at this point. Like what they do is built around McCaffrey. They've changed what they do on the offensive side of the ball to accommodate for McCaffrey. We saw that against the Cardinals, which was basically the like running practice squad offense for most of the game. And Brock Purdy elevated the team as well. I mean, Deebo Samuel was essentially a non-factor. I know he tried to play in the game, but he was just so banged up that it wasn't really anything meaningful from him.
0 catches, 3 rushes for 6 yards.
Yeah, and Deebo shouldn't have played. Obviously, I work at a Sacramento radio station. We cover the 49ers. Our insider was basically like, Deebo's not going to play. Deebo's not going to play. And then when Deebo played, I texted him and he was like, Deebo's not going to be a factor in the game. Like, he's legitimately injured. And they brought out Brandon Ayuk, and Brandon Ayuk was averaging 26 yards of completion against that defense. To underestimate Brock Purdy is to also acknowledge what he has around him, right? Everyone gives the qualifier with Brock Purdy of, well, he's doing it with all of these talented players. And yes, that is true. But I think people are also, I would presume, able to recognize that what they do is they see the value Christian McCaffrey adds at a position that's being crapped on all over the place in the NFL right now. And so if people are going to come in here and discount the Brock Purdy performance because of what Christian McCaffrey was doing against a Cardinals defense that can't do anything from 25-yard line to 15-yard line, it's missing the point. Like, Brock Purdy is playing excellent football. He's number 1 in the league in QBR, number 1 in the entire NFL in QBR. And granted, at this time last season, Tua Tagovailoa was number 1 in the NFL in QBR. Top 10 QBR performers right now also include CJ Stroud, Joshua Dobbs, Baker Mayfield. Like, obviously it's a small sample size, but the data you're seeing so far suggests that yes, Brock Purdy is playing very well, and everything they do revolves around Christian McCaffrey. And by the way, that star turn people were talking about for Brandon Ayuk is actually happening in real time.
Can I make the case that the 49ers, why none of them will win MVP, is because they kind of have Golden State Warriors syndrome, where each of them take away from each other. Each of their star power takes away from their case to win an MVP award?
Part of the explanation, but not the whole explanation. I do think there's some truth to what you're saying. I think the other thing is that if another team or another player puts up ridiculous stats that will take precedent over the 16-1 team or the, dare I say, 17-0 team that has balance in that way. Like, yes, the singular entity who puts up ridiculous stats is going to take precedent in that situation, which this year I guess might be Josh Allen at this point. Like, Josh Allen has now thrown 4 more touchdowns in 3 games this year. Obviously, the interceptions are going to work against him, but yesterday he threw 25 total passes and they scored 48 points. That's absolutely ridiculous. He was averaging like 16 yards of completion, and I think those impressive statistics are going to make a bigger dent than the Niners cannibalizing themselves.
Well, I would also say with Josh Allen, we have to project for, because we've seen Josh Allen play a lot of football at this point, is that he is a streaky player. And right now he's on a hot streak and he's tearing up the league. But I think we can all estimate that we're going to see another cold streak from Josh Allen, because that's just been part of the MO. That's been part of the Josh Allen experience. Last year, he went through like a 3-game stretch where it's like, wow, we were talking about this guy for MVP candidate. I know in week 1 and even parts of week 2, we were kind of like, okay, Josh Allen, are you bad at football now? That's something that we've seen happen with Josh Allen. I kind of wonder if he's due for that. Now, I would say, fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know what Brock Purdy looks like after a loss. I don't know how this Niners team with Christian McCaffrey looks like after a loss. So I don't know if they're the type of team that if they fall into a little rut, like, does that persist onto itself? Or can they just bounce back quickly? Now, talent-wise, they should be able to bounce back quickly. And obviously, I hope there's not a loss coming soon. But law of averages, eventually Brock Purdy's going to lose a game. It's just something that's going to happen. It's just weird that we've gone this far into his NFL career and we just haven't seen it, aside from, again, tearing his elbow ligament in a game. That's the only exception to that rule.
But think about what a privileged position that is to be in the NFL, where like teams 8 through 24 are decided by like a field goal every single week. Is that our team is so good that we don't know how they'll respond to losing a single football game. Like, think how amazing of a position that is to be in.
I've heard someone make the case that when people say we're still waiting to see about Brock Purdy, they're really just saying we're waiting to see him lose, basically, so we can just dismiss everything that we saw in the first 13 games. And I do think that there is some truth to that. I think that there's some people that are just waiting for that first loss to say, oh, yeah, Mr. Relevant, of course. Don't you kind of get that sense too?
I don't know necessarily, because I felt like people were critical of him after the win against the Rams, where like he didn't play well, but he was also playing like an average NFL game. But like, besides the point is, like, if his worst performance is an average passer rating with no touchdowns, no interceptions, the Niners can live with that, right? Like, I don't even necessarily think it's the performance basis. I think it's more like Brock Purdy is still Mr. Irrelevant. People have that idea in their mind. Plus the fact that he's only played 13 games in the NFL, and we're starting to build out that sample size on Brock Purdy, but playing 13 games in this most privileged of positions of being the 49ers quarterback is just a small sample size. And when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I said the same thing, is like, check in again in like week 14 and see how it feels. And by then, I know this might sound weird, but by then, the 49ers will maybe have lost a game. Maybe by week 14, they will have a single loss under their belt.
I guess we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get there. It is Cowboys week, so that's going to be a lot of fun. If anyone's still waiting to test out Christian McCaffrey's MVP case, Brock Purdy's MVP case, 49ers, Cowboys, you know that game is going to be a hot ticket. I think before the season, it was literally the most expensive ticket in the NFL. So hopefully you got a seat to be in Santa Clara this weekend. Well, let us know what you think about the MVP cases for both Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey, respectively. We'd like to hear your thoughts. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all our social medias. From Juju and Kyle, stay safe, happy, and healthy, and we will see you next time.